Hello traders, this is Victoria from TradePro Academy, and as you might have guessed from the title, what we're going to be breaking down is using the depth of market to trade the Nasdaq and find massive market reversals. I'm going to be breaking down not only a trade that I took today, but we're going to be fully understanding how that trade developed, where we were able to secure about 150 points on the Nasdaq futures. So these large reversals are very common realistically with Nasdaq since it's a more volatile asset. I'm going to be showing you guys how to look for those 100-point movers on Nasdaq using the depth of market and order flow. We'll be going through what a bearish versus bullish DOM looks like, as well as where buyers and sellers capitulate and get exhausted to pinpoint those moves. We'll be talking about a few other things like distributions that help us understand these order flow movements a little more, but mainly focused on the DOM. So before we jump into the screens, I want to remind you guys that if you check the bio down below, you can find our free Discord community.tradeproacademy.com, where you guessed it, you can get access to our Sierra Charts chart book 100% free. So if you like the charts that we use, go and check that out as a reminder. I'll see you guys in there and at the screens right after this intro. Hey traders, like I talked about in my intro, I'm going to be breaking down how we can identify large market reversals on the Nasdaq futures using the DOM and generally order flow. Nasdaq is a very jumpy market, but it's grown a lot in popularity over the last few years, especially over the last few months with the died out volatility in the general markets. The lower volatility makes trading the S&P 500, for example, less attractive, and people gravitate towards big market movers like the Nasdaq futures. Now, these Nasdaq futures, they can get volatile, but if you understand how the order flow works, especially how to read the DOM a little more properly, you can identify these very large, consistent moves. Now, the Nasdaq, you have to understand that the risk is higher, meaning that I'm going to be using about nearly 20-point, 15-point stops on this and looking for very big reactions and sizable moves that actually confirm the order flow moves. So when I'm looking at Nasdaq, it's a combination of a few separate things. Now, I generally do use auction theory, but I'm going to be focusing on how we can use the DOM and specifically order flow to identify these like larger turning points in the Nasdaq that can result like this trade in about 150-point move. Right now, we're seeing some kind of rotations, but you can see it's still up significantly, about 170 points with two shorts left. So these massive movers with the Nasdaq, whether you're trading micros or minis, can be worth thousands of dollars. And I'm going to explain exactly how to find those points. Now, the first thing that we have to understand is the Nasdaq DOM movement. Nasdaq DOM movement, if I'm looking at the DOM, we have two main columns here in the middle that are denoted as right at the ask trading and at the bid trading, like aggression and aggression. These market orders that are coming in, this is mainly what I look at. Now, Nasdaq, it's not like the S&P because the S&P has fairly significant size, right? You can see upwards of 1,000 lots getting traded, 800 lots. General large size can range between 500 and 700 lots. On the Nasdaq, what I'm forced to look at here is single digits along with some double digits that are floating around. And to add to that, it's a very fast mover. So if we get a drop of like 10, 15 points, it can happen in seconds and you might miss what's going on here. So these are large market orders that are coming in. What I look at on this is at the bid trading, which is the red columns, I'm going to be looking at them as aggressive market sellers versus aggressive market buyers. Another thing to kind of slow things down here, because if it's oscillating a lot, the creation of delta into specific areas. So with the Nasdaq, I'm very focused on how delta gets created on the DOM, right? Very significantly and almost instantaneously, and the reaction that gets imposed from that delta. So when I'm looking at these like large market reversals realistically, I'm going to be looking at traders at tops or at bottoms, obviously. When the market has a consistent move to the upside, I'll be looking for some kind of very obvious at the ask trading, market trading over here, right? Which generally can create this blue delta block. So when we look at these, sizing is important. Sizing and reactivity when we follow the DOM is going to be the most important aspect. And then comes the execution, because people look at Nasdaq and it moves very swiftly, and all of a sudden they're just like jumping in at poor areas. So when I look at these middle columns, generally speaking, the market buying versus market selling, I'm going to be looking at orders that are 30 plus, right? So orders that are 50 plus, 60 plus, based on a timeout of milliseconds around 3,000 milliseconds, right? That's the setting I'm using on this DOM. If I'm looking at orders that are like 35 plus, 30 plus, I'm going to get something significant that I can look out for, because it doesn't happen that often. Now, on the delta side of things, what I can look for are deltas that are getting created at 100 plus, right? Now, there's a difference between deltas that get created instantaneously versus delta that gets stacked up over a period of time. The delta that stacks up over a period of time, right, there's multiple rotations that can create those imbalances, which are very effective. I've made a video on absorption about that. But if I see deltas that get created instantaneously, meaning one push through and that delta is created, that's what I like to focus on to find these instantaneous larger market reversals. So what I've done is I've also created, in addition to that, I've added these blue and red dots that come in on the screen. So you have massive at the ask traders based on the blue dots, and the red dots are going to be massive at the bid traders. So when I'm looking for these large market reversals at a top, realistically, I'm looking for buy pressure that gets exhausted or trapped. At a bottom, I'm looking for sell pressure that gets exhausted or trapped. I'm going to do a little replay to break this down, right? I'm going to switch the accounts, go into a little replay to break down how we can find some of these tops and bottoms on the Nasdaq. But to guide you through the general understanding of the theory, if I'm noticing that the market's rallying super aggressively, I don't want to be short against it, right? I don't want to jump in blindly and look for shorts, right? Some of these blue areas, you can see these blue dots. It's not as easy as finding a blue dot and selling into it. We want to understand that these aggressive at-the-ask traders are actually bringing prices on the reaction to the downside. When we're looking at the Nasdaq, right, and any other DOM, order flow in general, it's all about the pace and the reaction of large orders. So if I'm looking at this, I'm looking at these like middle columns here, I'm going to be noticing how thick the blue side is versus the red side and what the reactions of either one are. So meaning if we have consistent large blue orders that are coming in, right, at the ask over here, and they're very big, right, 30 to 60 at a time, I don't want to get in the way of that. At a certain point, they might throw an order, maybe 150, 90, 85, a very, very large order that might create this kind of blue area. And I want to see on the other side the reaction of very large orders at the bid that drop prices down super aggressively against that buying. So that's where I can start noticing that there's most likely going to be a reversal in these prices. To add to that, what I'm going to be looking for is going to be a very large delta that gets created instantaneously and prices drop against that delta. I generally look for about like a 10-point move against that trend once these criteria are met realistically. So that's how we were able to pick out this area. And not only that, right, we can use a distribution and auction motive to understand how that area was created, right, to add a little bit more spice and confirmation. The top band of this distribution over here is 0.80 to 0.90, meaning that we're in this balance and it's going to take a lot of buying to escape that balance. So that's an area that we want to watch out for to see if there's going to be some kind of sell pressure. It's the same concept into 0.20, 0.30 on the Nasdaq as we've seen earlier on today. That has created a pretty significant top, right? You can see over here, right, that was the exit on the long. But look at this area, same concept into this 0.30, 0.40 area. We get a massive market buyer that steps in aggressively and prices react against it. That's how we can find these general tops or bottoms on the Nasdaq, right? In this case, we're trying to locate and sniff out tops. So you can see there are clusters of very heavy deltas. I note heavy delta as 100 plus that gets created on the DOM on the Nasdaq. So why don't we take a look at that and identify the reactions of the Nasdaq on a replay? And I'm going to start somewhere over here so we can see the difference between the reaction here right? That creates maybe some false traders trying to jump in on the short and getting stopped out versus the reactions here that look like a potential better top find or just complete fade of this trend. So let's do that. I'll set up the replay and we'll find these guys out. So I've got the replay loaded and let's take a look at what happens at these areas based on the DOM itself, notifying how these orders interact, how delta gets created, and where that reversal may or may not happen. And I'll pause to explain certain aspects of what had transpired here. So we've started a few minutes before the actual aggressive pop and seeing those large orders come through. So we'll see Nasdaq right now, if we're just like scoping through the DOM in itself, we've a lot of your delta that's kind of cluttered in these areas. And then we have this massive blockade over here of 0.20 to like 0.25, where we have the heaviest of blue deltas, right? This is an area that created a lot of absorption in the past. That pushed prices lower. One of the things about absorption is if it gets created throughout the day, that needs to be the top of the market. Otherwise, if we get an extended move away from it and prices move back towards, you're generally going to get the expansion above that absorption or below, depending on where it is. Now, look at these orders that are coming through right now. You're seeing larger orders on the Nasdaq, on the DOM, and you're seeing like 40s, 30s. And at the ask side, the market buy side is still holding out a lot better. Every time these orders come in, we're getting an expansion higher. So like at a certain point, if all these buyers are getting jammed up and we see like a long winded sell with larger quantities that's in the tune of like 10-ish plus points, that's what tells us that you're going to start to see that reaction, potential failure. I want to see a very stern reaction because every time we're pulling down right now, despite the orders, the buy side comes in and it rebids it back up and it sweeps it back up to continuously make new highs at this point. So this is telling you not only we're moving up, right? It's a very bullish DOM. The buyers are in control right now. And this is not something I want to get against, right? I don't want to start trying to fight this. I don't want to go against this kind of movement. I want to find something that's like very obvious, either in past areas that might have created some kind of imbalance based on the delta or right based on distributions. But if I'm looking solely at the DOM right now, we are trying to pull down a little, but the sizing on the sell isn't that significant. And every time we pull down, you'll see that a buyer tries to step into these moves. Let's watch. We're seeing still fairly small quantities that are being traded on this, right? But every time we pull down on smaller size on the bid trades, we see the buyers step in and rebid prices. So still large quantities appearing here. We're coming towards an area that has a lot of delta imbalance before. A decent reaction with these like larger sellers coming through, but again, it's a very insignificant amount of points. And they bid it back up just as easily. We're still watching for that like very big identifier that really changes the tune of the delta and changes these larger orders that come in. So it was just like continuous larger market buying, and then they just like dump it aggressively. That's going to give us the understanding that there's going to be some kind of larger reversal in sight, right? And if we create a very large delta to that tune. So this is one of the significant moments because we get a very strong at the ask trader here, right? We have 92 contracts, right? They get thrown in. We get this like blue bubble. It adds to the huge delta. This is an area of massive delta that previously got absorbed and pushed prices lower. So with this massive order that comes in, when we see a very stern reaction against that to the downside with larger quantities on the sell, that's what builds out the idea for us to find a reversal based on the DOM in this market, right? Specifically the Nasdaq. What you're seeing right now is, okay, they're trying to pull lower very insignificantly, a few points, then just rebid back up. So they're not letting this guy breathe, right? They're just continuously holding, bidding. And you get like some little baby reactions here to the tune of like 5 points on very weak volume that's coming in and rebids instantaneously. This is not what you want to see out of a general topping out of a market, if you will, or a massive reversal based on the order flow. What you're seeing right now is just like more buyers coming in. You're seeing the rebid continuous, right? The larger orders on the market buy side are holding out. Every time a seller comes in, they just rebid it super aggressively. To that tune, if a large order comes in like that, you want to see an aggressive reaction to the downside with very heavy selling, right? You want to see very large orders that like continue. The fact that we're moving above this so easily right now with like a few point reaction against it is telling us that this is most likely not going to be a top area. This is most likely going to be an area that wants to continue. If we drop significantly with very big selling, like 30s, 40s, 50s, right, all the way down into like 20, into 20,000 and like 10, even lower, that's what gives me the idea that this is potentially some kind of larger reversal in the market. And you can see they just keep happily buying larger quantities pretty much at highs. Every minor pullback allows for larger orders to come in and sweep this thing higher. So let's see. We're close to breaking the highs of day here on the Nasdaq. We're not far from the highs, about 10 points, and you can see every time larger sellers come into the tune of 30, 40s, the buyer just like steps back in. We're still holding that. And this is what really breaks down a bullish DOM. Because if we were to see the change in order flow from bullish to bearish, we'd want to see that these large sellers that are coming in at the bid realistically are going to actually swing prices lower to a more aggressive tune. Right now, they're just providing liquidity for more buyers to just rebid these prices. So minor pullbacks to the tune of 5, 6 points, right? Just get rebid consistently. And every time we pull down with large orders, the buy side says, thank you very much, sweep it back higher. So you see they add more large deltas, more massive rebids, and what happens? Prices continue to go up. All the selling's providing right now is just a better path for the buy side to come in. All these large sellers, you can't just focus on the quantity. You're focused on the speed of the reactions that come through. Every time these large orders are coming out on the sell side, they just get used as liquidity, get rebid back up, and just swing to the upside. So I'm not seeing anything that's telling me that there's going to be some kind of rejection reversal in these prices, right? That's what I want to focus on. I want to focus on the point where all these buyers that have accumulated and they throw large quantities at this market get actually reversed, right? They create a new very thick positive delta into these areas, very large orders come in at the ask, and they just get offered aggressively against that price. So we're nearing the distribution top area. We talked about auctions, right? This is an added bonus that you can use in relation to identifying these areas. But if I'm solely focused on what's going on here with the order flow to give me some kind of inclination on who's actually holding strength versus weakness, I haven't seen anyone sell. Here's another large order that comes in. Let's pause this. You have to the tune of pretty much like 70, 50 contracts coming in all at once, right? At about, what is it, 0.69. So you have the creation of a decent delta. But the good thing about this, like the main thing about this, is that these are all large orders that come in at once, right? So these are instantaneous orders, very large size. And from here, we want to see the size on the sell side increase, right? And get a strong reaction to the downside. So let's see how that occurs. Oh. So nothing yet. They're allowing these guys to hold. It's very similar to what had happened before. Large quantities coming in at the ask, large quantities right at the bid. These sellers are now, right, look at this. Now you're starting to see something that's more familiar and similar to a reaction where you have buyers coming in at these highs that are super aggressive and the sellers are just counteracting it. That big area, right, it's not necessarily needed that you immediately reject it, but like, look, you pop up a bit, you get some more at the ask, right, very large quantities, and then you rival them with people at the bid at 0.70, just a point above, and we drop down fairly aggressively here, right? So we're now starting to see the creation of these potential tops, and if we get like a double test right into these regions that allows for something like that to consistently just fail and reoffer, that's going to be our area. That's going to be the area that we want to get into to identify that larger reversal in these prices. So now within this area, I can pinpoint about a 5-point region on the Nasdaq that if we can get that reaction, I'm just going to start jumping into this short. Come back up a little too swiftly here for my liking. Still not completely out of pocket. We've only rallied about 7 points through that area. Buy side is still rebidding pretty aggressively here. We're now officially into the distribution top region. A lot of orders are coming into this top at the 0.80. Another massive order comes in, right? 140, you saw it there, large orders, and boom, that's a strong reaction, creates a huge positive delta. So both of these put together right now, we kind of rebid the area about like 14 points. That's not the end of the world, but like the large quantities that came in, the reaction that came in against that huge at the ask trading, right? 140 comes in on the DOM, creates a decent delta, gets rejected, pushes down immediately, right? They're trying to push down under this 0.70. So realistically, I can pinpoint an area between 0.75, right, and 0.85 realistically, so I can start shorting. So if I short into this area like this, right, I'm making sure that I can actually get filled realistically, because now what you're seeing is every buyer that comes in, every rebid that comes in gets met with a reoffer that's like super aggressive. This is not what happened on the way up. If you compare both DOMs, even if you rewind this video, every time we had a large market seller that came in, it just got rebid instantaneously. Now we're seeing the opposite. So if I want to get filled, I can start filling into these like 0.75s and potentially up into that 0.80 where we had that creation of the rejection of that cluster. Stops above the highs, right? If I use about like an 18-point stop, 17-point stop, I think I should be clear, because right now we are getting the notion that there is a lot of trading here that's happening that's getting exhausted on the buy side. These reactions are now starting to flip. You notice the change in the tune in the order flow. Larger quantities are coming in at the bid. Large market sellers are trying to push down. Every time a buyer comes in, we start getting that type of rejection. This is what we want to see to identify one of these top areas. Boom, 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 boom. Another violent move against that 080. And this is exactly what we noticed, right? This is what we got in our room today, right? Understanding that above 0.90, if I place my stops, I can short the Nasdaq, looking for that larger downside move, exactly based on what I'm explaining right now here today for you guys. So let's see how this does continue here. But realistically, if you're shorting within that 0.80 area, 0.75, you do have the potential of these guys getting very accumulated, right? They're getting very exhausted, and there's no more buy pressure that's coming in, because every time they rebid, the reoffer comes in super aggressively, completely the opposite of what it is that we saw on the way up, right? So they're changing hands, right? The sell side's getting more aggressive, the buy side's getting more tame, and the orders are getting much larger. Another large order comes in here at the ask, and immediately price shoots down with a very significant reoffers and sell pressure that comes in. So you're getting a double confirmation within this area. And from there, right, we're just looking for this downside sweep, which eventually turns into a massive drop to the downside that spans over 100 points on the Nasdaq, which, right, is a very sizable quantity, even if you're trading the micros. So when it comes to reading the order flow and the DOM on the Nasdaq, you want to be very, very selective with the 3 rules that I described today. Right? You want to notice who's in control, the buy side or the sell side, based on size and reactivity, right? If we're at the bid trading and we're seeing 30s, 40s, 50s, and every time they try to drop, they get swept back up, you've got a bullish DOM on your hands, where at a certain point, you might find something like this where you have massive orders that come in, create these deltas, create these instantaneous deltas, and these market orders that completely get rejected, and that's going to be your top, or you just flip it around to the bottom. So if you guys enjoyed these DOM videos, right, and the breakdown of this, using a replay feature on the NASDAQ and how we're finding these areas, and the S&P as well, drop a comment down below. We'll do some more DOM videos. And remember to check out community.tradeproacademy.com, because if you guys want this full template for the S&P 500 on Sierra charts, you can get it there for free in our open Discord. And I'll see you guys there. I'll see you guys in the community. And let's get ready for some new videos. So thank you guys and take care.